November 1st, 2023. We're at the Clinton County Historical Association, and I'm supposed to talk to Jan Couture. I don't think that's Jan Couture there. No, it's not.
No.
This might be, though. All right. You said, I heard you whispering to Jerry. You want Jerry Favreau to introduce this segment? Or
No, you can introduce it.
I can introduce it. Okay. I didn't know who you were whispering to. You were whispering to me. Okay. Yeah, it says we're going to be talking about some various things here. We just finished an interesting little tour of this part of the facility with Dick Soper, and now Jan's going to tell us about this segment. And it looks like there's going to be some cigars involved or something here. A cigar store Indian is right here, and was this local, Jan?
Yes, this stood outside of the Levy Brothers store on Margaret Street. And the thing about the cigar store Indians was, if you walked down the street and you didn't speak English and you couldn't read, you would know exactly where to get your tobacco products. And it was the same thing that's where our barber poles came from. The butcher, I think, was the sign of a cleaver. So you would know what to go for in that store. And of course, now we look on it as a derogatory term, but the other thing is that we focus on more is the artistic value of it. When they had the clipper ships, they would have these usually maidens off of the clipper ships, and they were all clean. They were all carved. Well, once steam came out and they no longer needed the ships, those people were out of work, and they were the ones who started carving the cigar store Indians and the other things that you would see on the street. It doesn't show the native. They used the native because they were the people who introduced tobacco.
Until the white man landed here, they didn't know about this wonderful thing called tobacco that could kill you.
And they didn't, but to the natives, it was a symbol. They used it for medicinal purposes. We don't show that, of course, in here. But it is a piece of folk art, and this one's a little battered. I mean, it's really kind of neat. If you look over here,
all right.
he's holding the cigars.
Okay, there you go.
Those are the cigars, and every year they would have to paint it because it would be sitting outside.
Yeah.
So they had to redo it. And so that's our cigar store Indian. And these were some of the boxes that they sold, which is interesting because you have the Royal
local.
Savage.
Yeah, local
and
stuff.
All local. We had Altona had a manufacturing place. So it was quite a business. Then our next business was something that people in this area are very familiar with.
All right, so
is Redford Glass.
Redford Glass. Now, that's pretty close to your neck of the woods?
Yeah, I'm a Saranac girl.
And what's your job here at the museum?
I do a lot of stuff. I do a lot of stuff. I'm the secretary. I don't know, what else do I do? On the executive committee, I do a lot of stuff. Education. Exhibits. Collections. I just do a lot of stuff. Kind of like a jack of all trades. If something needs to be done, I'm called on.
So Redford Glass, and
yes.
This was a business that was operating there in Redford and was famous, at least
for
locally.
about 20 years, from 1830 to 1850s. And a lot of people wonder where the glass factory was. And if you go through Redford toward Saranac Lake, you'll go over a hill. And there is actually a marker on the side of the road on the right-hand side. It's way on the hill.
It's on Route 3.
It's on Route 3. And you can't, it's on the hill. Let's just say if you want to stop your car, you got to climb up the hill to read it.
Oh, okay.
But they call that Glass Factory Hill. So that's where it was. And over on the side, you can see where there's some clearing areas, and that's where it was. The painting is an example, is the Glass Factory House. And then you can, that burned, a long time ago.
Okay.
So
what years was it open?
From 1830s to 1850s.
Okay, so that's quite a while ago.
Quite a while ago. And this is a sample of their price list for glass. You could have Redford glass or you could have Saranac glass. Saranac glass was a little less quality. but it was requested throughout the country.
Whoops.
You have to realize that the country at the time only basically went to the Appalachian Mountains, but we can have places in the libraries requested it, in Virginia, the University of Virginia Library requested it. It was requested all over the country. Another thing is that you wouldn't believe, but Redford was actually laid out in a perpendicular pattern. One of the few towns that was actually laid out, and this is it today, and this is it in 1832.
Okay, so it's
It
most
stayed the
of us-
same.
most of us driving by never get to
Never go
go
up into Redford.
Redford itself.
Nope.
Just drive by
Nope.
and
My
Now-
mother lived here for close to 50 years.
never
And-
went to Redford.
Never went to went to Redford. One time, a hot summer day, my husband and I took her to dinner. She goes, I've never been through Redford. Okay, Mom, we can do that. And what made it famous was the window glass, not the fancy glass that is behind me, but the window glass is what was requested. And the houses had the window glass, and they made it. Well, here's a window. They made it in small pieces because of the way that it was manufactured. They would heat the glass in the forges, and then they would spin it like this. They would have it like this, and then they would spin it. So you couldn't get a huge piece of glass for it. So they usually had just smaller panes. I do know that a house in Massachusetts was bought by a Harvard professor, and he bought it for $1, one of those dollar things because we're going to tear it down. And so he moved it, and he came looking for Redford glass windows. Now, a lot of people say, I have Redford glass in my house, but there's a difference between Redford glass and what they call sheet glass. Redford glass has to have, because it was blown like this, it was blown by centrifugal force. It wasn't poured flat. So all Redford glass has I can find one for you here, Calvin. It all has an arc in it. This one over here has a better arc. I don't know if your camera can pick it up.
But
See if you can see, like there's a line in it. This is right up here. There it is. I don't know if you can see it
No, I don't
with
think it's gonna
the
pick up.
air, with the way the
yeah, I
light
can
is.
up at the corner. I can see a little thing there. It's done in a circular motion,
Yeah.
and I was
This
told,
is crown glass. This is
Yeah.
why it's called crown glass, because it crowned.
and sometimes the ones that had these things in the middle were end of the day type of projects.
This was bullseye. So this is right where, look over here again.
Yeah, right.
This
Well,
right
yeah, right the
here is
center.
where the bullseye was.
Yeah.
So they broke it off there, and as the glass gets closer to the bullseye, it gets thicker. So that would have been the Saranac glass. The Redford glass was the finer, thinner kind.
Yeah, some people might have cut all around there and considered that a waste,
Yep.
but it became famous. And again, it was the end of the
End of the
day.
end of the day, they could do something with it, or they could take that and remelt it and make more glass out of it.
Yeah, but for some reason
see.
we're popular. I don't know if I want a bullseye in the middle of my
Oh,
window, but some people did.
above, well, we don't have it anymore. I think I probably took it out. There's, you would see them quite often on the sides of doors and above. So you would have that bullseye up there. And so it's really, the sun, when it shines through the windows, you see the aquamarine color on the wall, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is this lovely, I have no idea how to describe it, a lovely aquamarine color.
Now the Alice T. Minor Museum in Shazy has some Redford
Yes,
glass.
yeah. And this was what they did at the end of the day. They did all of this, and this is what people collect now. A lot of Redford glass windows have been removed for obvious reasons. They break, they're not energy efficient for sure.
But they have this blue color.
But they
huh?
have this blue color that is just worth looking at. So these are some of the examples of what they would have done, what they would have made. And this right here, this is what they're quite famous for, is this, they call it the lily pad. And you'll have a lily pad here, you'll have a lily pad there, over here is a lily pad. And most of the blowers came from southern New Jersey. The Metropolitan Museum of Art will not identify Redford Glass as Redford Glass. They call it Northern New York glass because it's very difficult to tell the difference between them.
Mm-hmm.
And this right here, believe it or not, this is a genuine piece. And the interesting thing about it was when it was found, it's not shiny like the others. When it was found, it was just holding a lot of nails and screws. Now, why would they have done some of these? They did it, they sold it afterwards, they used it at home. It was also a way of teaching others how to make things. So like if we use, like for example, this over here, this is a ladle. Now you certainly wouldn't use a ladle like that in cooking. And it's also hollow, so I'm not really sure. But it's also a way of learning how to make bends
Right.
and how to make things. The canes, we have a swirly cane and we have a plain cane. We always, until I did some research on another thing, on another exhibit, never realized, I always said, well, they're just using the cane and kind of like, because no offense to anybody, but they were men. I can do this. Can you do that?
Mm-hmm.
But also fine-tuning some of their skills. And so that was why we have the cane. And this thing on the bottom, that is listed as it's like in a parade. This is what they would carry. However,
a baton type of thing?
not a baton, what they call it. Hold on, I can see it right here. What number is that? That's a V. It's called a mace.
Okay.
And they would use that in a medieval parade and hold it above to symbolize, here come the glass blowers. But then I kind of found out that the glass canes were used as the symbol for a parade. And I'll show you that when you go downstairs and do the parade exhibit. Here's a framed bullseye.
Yep.
And the colored, now this one here, the only thing that I've seen here is this colored one. And that's using different dyes, but it's the only example that we have of Redford glass being like that. So that's kind of a unique thing. The cloche in the middle would have been used to, again, put over a plant in the winter or in the spring just to get it growing a little bit better. However, it's not like they made a lot of them, and they may have made it just as an example of what can be done and how you can form it. And they suspect, can't be 100% sure, but they suspect in here that there is one fake piece.
Uh-oh.
An imitation. Do you want me to show you which one?
Yes, please. I'm
Okay.
just dying to know.
If you look, if you look at this one, you look at the handle and how it comes down. There's big blobs down here on each one of these. But when you look at this sugar here, you'll notice the color is a little bit different. You'll also know that the handle is very, very small where it attaches. Is it a genuine piece or is it an imitation piece? The story is that the people who made these pieces were not trying to imitate it, because if they were trying to imitate it 100% and make it a forgery, they would have made it with the longer tails on the handle. So they were making it as a piece. Now, for Christmas one year, my sister gave me a bowl like this, and it was definitely labeled as an imitation, but in the style of the Redford glass.
Okay.
And that's more or less the secret. And we know how they did it because if you look, this is on the money. They had their own script, And this is where the house came, this is how we know where the factory came from, and this is how they manufactured the glass.
Okay.
Would you like to go over to?
Now this is on the
This is
bottom,
it.
this, the rocks here, what's,
Those were found in Redford. It was interesting, I think it was a parrot. He was digging in his yard and he found a huge boulder. And a lot of people have taken pieces from the boulder. It's under cover now, but a lot of people took pieces of it as symbols of Redford glass. And so this is just like slag, wasted glass.
okay, so this is gonna wrap up this portion with Redford Glass. We're gonna move
Yep.
on. Where are we heading?
Do you want to go over to Mr. Bigelow?
We'll go on to Mr. Bigelow.
Okay, come on over to Mr. Bigelow.
Is that Dan Bigelow?
This is Dan Bigelow. Do you know him?
I know him well.
This is Daniel Folger Bigelow. He was born in Peru, and he had an interesting life in that he always wanted to paint. And he would work in a quarry, get paid in the quarry, and then he would quit because he had enough money to buy his paints.
Wow.
And then when he ran out of money, he would go back and work in the quarry again. And then he'd get more money to do his paints. He eventually went to New York City and fine-tuned his art there. And then he moved to Chicago. He married, his wife was from Peru, Charlotte Barnes Bigelow, and they had 3 children, and they lived a very privileged life in Chicago. He taught, he painted, he was a group of founding members of the Academy of Design, which became the Chicago Art Institute. He exhibited at various national exhibits. In 1871, the Great Chicago Fire, the one with Mrs. Murphy's cow, totally destroyed his home and his studio, and he was able to rebuild. He also made paintings on China. And what he would do, he loved our North Country. Once he went to Chicago, it wasn't as if he never came back. He came here every summer, and then he would go back to Chicago, and these sketches, he would turn those into paintings. Sometimes he brought his students, and all those sketches, then he would turn them into paintings. He would do the paintings from his sketches. I became interested in Daniel Folger Bigelow because I was going through a suitcase of paperwork. And all of a sudden, here was the back, literally, the back of an envelope. And he has this pencil sketch, and it says, "The house where I was born." And it was like, oh my gosh, nobody has seen this in years and years and years and years and years. So I became really, really interested in him. One of his paintings is behind us on right over here.
Right here we go.
Yep. And this is
Champlain
Lake
Shore.
Champlain at Cumberland Head. So this is a sample of his work.
Is this an original or a copy?
This is an original.
Oh, wow.
This is, I believe, is the one that he showed at they had a huge exposition, like a World's Fair in Chicago. Was it 1879, something like that? And this was what it was exhibited. And so that is the story of Daniel Folger Bigelow.
All right. This, of course, was before color photography, so if you wanted a color rendition, you'd have to get a painting, and this
This
yeah,
was it.
this is it. All right. That's
Dan, is that the piece that's going back on exhibit?
It might go back on exhibit in Chicago. There's a Mexican art museum in Chicago that has asked if they could exhibit this. We've sent them pictures. We're not sure where it stands at this point as to what's going to happen with it.
all right. And this was a gift from. Let's give a credit here
Yep.
from James and Edna Hutchinson.
And he had a son, also named Daniel Bigelow, who died young. And he was also an artist, and they say that if he hadn't died young, that his work would have surpassed his father's in
wow.
skill.
All right. We'll move right along now. Reminder, the hours here, Wednesday through Saturday, 10 to 3. Now, is that, what time period is that months-wise?
All year round.
All year round?
If we're closed, we'll let you know. We'll
Okay,
put it on
well-
Facebook or put it on our website
Well,
or,
like if a thing like Thanksgiving, you won't be open.
no, not the
Christmas-
public holidays, yeah.
Christmas
yeah.
or
No,
New Year's
Christmas
or whatever.
Yeah, we might be closed Christmas Eve also, so.
And who are you, young lady? I was talking to
hello.
Jan Couture, and all of a sudden.
I know, all of a sudden I
popped into
appear. I'm
picture.
Helen Nerska. I'm the director here and past president, I guess, and been here a long time. But never too long because there's always something to learn. Absolutely. Every week we learn something new.
Something old. You learned something old.
Yeah, new to me. yeah, so.
Okay, this is right behind what we just got done with Jan, is this right here.
Yeah,
So tell
it's
us
right
what
in
this
front
is.
of, well, these are just samples of the 7,000 scenes that we own. They were given to us, donated to us, and we call them the Brewer Collection, but they were done by studios around Plattsburgh. They go back, well, I want to say there's some from the 70s, 80s, 90s. And they were either celluloid or glass negatives, and that we have been able to scan them, reproduce them, and make them available. We make them available to sister museums. We make them available to the press when they have a story. There's one waiting for us right now, waiting for one of our negatives, one of our scans. We also sell them to people. We have a price list, and they can
So they can come in here and
come in here.
browse through your collection and say, I want a copy of that.
Well, they can, and they should make an appointment though.
Yeah.
Because a space is, we want to make sure we have what they're looking for
Right.
available, and we often do that. We have a lot of photos by subject. So somebody says, I'd like to see downtown Plattsburgh. They will see downtown Plattsburgh and many versions of it.
This is not downtown Plattsburgh in the upper left here.
No, it's not. It's men harvesting grain, and because it was taken here, it's in Clinton County somewhere, but we don't have thorough descriptions for all the pictures.
Okay, well,
So,
I'm telling you what those guys are doing is stooking oats.
That's what they're doing, yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
When I was a youngster, they'd cut the oats in little bundles,
Yeah.
and my brother Sam and I would go around and put them in piles so they would dry, and that's called stooking. That's what.
You're not in this picture then.
No, those are three men.
There's one little, yeah, I guess not a little boy. Okay.
But
Yeah.
yeah, as a kid, that's you go to a 15-acre field and you got
Yeah.
all those oats to stook. It was a daunting task.
Well, these are specifically, they were chosen, they're especially fascinating. First of all, Sable Chasm is, iconic here.
Right.
We're well known. Our beach, have we ever seen our beach? A Plattsburgh City beach with so many cars on it. Look at the age of those cars. I don't know cars, it's got to be about 1910 or 12.
You didn't have any parking lots back then. You parked on
No,
the
well,
beach.
you do park on the beach, and that's okay. And then there's our barracks. The 21st Infantry was here, so that's an old picture, because the 26th was here around World War I, and so the 21st, that's before,
That's the
stated
Plattsburgh
age.
Barracks, and this is what
Yep,
we're on here.
and then there's, that's where we are. We give tours of the Oval. So, and we pass and we talk about, we show this picture actually to people, and there's the guardhouse behind them. That was built in about 1894. So this picture is iconic, and I just learned that my cousin's uncle that's Russell Bell when he was a little boy, and his mother was actually one of the well-known suffragists in Clinton County, Harriet Bell.
Okay,
So, but that's her son, Russell.
who's gonna deny that?
It's in a picture. My grandmother wrote Russell Bell in a little arrow, so it has to
Okay.
be right,
Okay, her grandmother wrote it. That's
That's right. Shazy Rural School. This is before. This was when it was the first rural school
Yep.
in the state.
in the state.
Certainly
and
in our
they're-
area.
And they're wondering if it might be even
Yeah.
in the country.
And what a wonderful building it
YMH Minor,
was.
YMH
Did you
Minor.
ever go in it?
I don't recall going in it because they didn't play any sports there. They didn't have a gymnasium there.
But they had pools,
Yeah. But-
and I went in there, I was lucky. I couldn't believe it. I thought this was some old house, it was just beautiful.
Yeah, and of course, across the road, you had where the teachers, lady
Yeah.
teachers lived, the Gray
Yeah.
Gables. And,
It really thought of everything.
yeah,
That's
it was
right.
amazing. And that was torn down in the late 60s, and the new school was erected. And they said it was a task to tear it down because
Of
it was
course.
so well built.
Of course, of course.
But they
Yeah.
couldn't put elevators and things in that they needed for the modern
Yeah.
time, so
Yeah.
down it went.
So somebody has chosen these with, Simon George works for us, and he was asked to pull his favorites, I think, to put them up here, and these happen to be his favorites. That's also a very well-known picture of the Tercentennial Parade on Bridge Street, and they record this as thousands of people coming out. Have we seen an event that has such pomp these days? I don't know. It's about time, I think. Maybe for America 250, we'll be doing that
This
for
was
the.
1909, and
Yep.
Centennial.
It was a big deal. And this is when the fair came to town, and they had, this was the Ferris wheel, my goodness. That was part of the Chicago Fair. Wasn't that the first time the Ferris wheel was, and that must have been the turn of the century as far as I remember. I don't want to remember things wrong, so I'm not sure. Maybe I should just be
So
quiet
this was
about that.
definitely local, because you got Bayview Dairy on there, so
That's
this is
huge.
definitely a
Yep.
local
Oh, no,
picture.
it's us.
Yeah, yeah.
But the Ferris wheel started, I think, at a
Oh,
World's
yeah,
Fair,
Yeah, I think so.
in Chicago.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But
And
I was-
there's our dedication of the Stone Arch Bridge on Bridge Street, which we take for granted today. And, but it was a big deal at the time.
Oh, sure.
And I think they had the 26th Infantry Band was there at the time, so they don't have a date on this picture. But
Yeah, you need to-
Roger Black did a whole presentation about the building of this bridge.
Yeah, so
So-
this one here has a date, it's 1935.
Did you see 35 somewhere?
No, on the Ferris wheels.
Oh, yeah. So they're pretty
Some
good.
have dates, some don't.
That's right. But this, Roger Black would have that, and if people wanted to see more copies of that, we have those. So this is our portrait collection, so there's 17,000 portraits.
17,000.
And those are glass plate negatives that we are now scanning. And we're up to, and I think we're through the E's. And people have volunteers have spent hours and hours on this. We've way back when, Robin Brown and Helen Allen, who was director of this museum for years, sat down and re-sleeved all these negatives and transcribed what they were on the negative. And so our volunteers, starting, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago, could be more, started to document them on a spreadsheet, because it's the modern age where,
Right.
and so we know the name of everyone who purchased a portrait. And many people have come in and found their families, because the range is between 1890 and 1920, 25. So anyone in town and the surrounding area that had their portraits professionally done by the Brusher Woodward Studios might find a relative in our collection. And we can easily find the name, and we can also easily scan samples for people.
Now, which one of
So-
these is E.L. Ravel? Is it the baby or the man?
Isn't that cool? Yeah. And these were all, Robin Brown, who was a former professor, I believe, at SUNY and a photographer in her own right, who helped Helen Allen document all of these. She knows how, she's agreed maybe, and I'm putting this on tape so that she'll see this, she's agreed that she might talk about how these were set up. See, this guy's got, what are they, horseshoes, right, in front of
Right.
him? So, I mean, these were all staged, and there are different
Yeah,
ways
they're
of staging them
posing,
all.
yeah.
These are exceptionally staged, but there are many, many of women in gorgeous, you saw over there, gorgeous gowns, men in uniform, and we happen to have a volunteer who can tell us what that uniform stands for. So now we know what service he was in, and perhaps what his level of service was.
Well, these
So-
are snow ice shoes. These are
Yeah, huh?
ice. These are ice. These are not just
Yeah.
horseshoes. They're ice horseshoes, so you could walk on the ice.
Yeah, this is a Canadian horse shoe and, anyway, ice shoes. You're right.
And invented those.
Yeah.
That guy invented them apparently.
So,
So we got Mrs. Hubbard here, and
Yeah.
no cupboard though. She went to her cupboard and found that hat probably.
very lovely. And we have lots of.
Do you think so?
Oh, yes, I think
You'd
those.
like to dress up like that?
Well, no, I can't do that, but they're very beautiful
Oh, yeah, for the
gowns.
times, for the
Yep,
times,
yep.
yeah.
So, and we have lots of children in pictures. So some people have found, their grandfather
Yeah,
sitting at a table like
Yeah,
this,
as an infant, sure.
So
All right, and this last one
So,
here, Dr. Bentler.
we're in the
Bentley.
process of scanning every single one of those. And this is done by volunteers. They're trained, and
17,000 scans, that's a lot of scanning.
it is a lot of scans, yeah. But we did 7,000 of the scenes, so we're not, we're not afraid. We'll do it.
Can I also mention that?
This is Jerry Favreau. I don't know if we've had her in this segment yet. She's the owner of this museum.
Well, no, not exactly. I'd like just to mention that we have a collection of Frank Party glass plate negatives, boxes of, I don't know how many there are.
Yes, from the
I
Northern
think,
Tier.
have they all been scanned?
All
Yep.
of them are scanned.
Yes. So, that's Rouse's Point,
Yeah.
Champlain, this area.
Yeah.
People are, there's a new Facebook page. People are very, very interested in the history of Rouse's Point and Champlain. And we have we have his collection of glass plate negatives. I'd also like to mention that we have 19 banker boxes. And I don't know if you know what a banker box is, but the banker boxes are like, yes, not
Okay.
the little ones, the big ones. 19 of them of the Blair and Weber photos. We have the sitting log, so we know what's there, and it's documented, but we haven't even had the chance, the opportunity, or the person to get into them yet to see.
So, let me ask, are volunteers accepted here? Or you say, no, don't bother us, we don't want any volunteers?
Oh, no. No. We couldn't survive without our volunteers. We're all volunteers. Helen's a volunteer, so am I. We have 2 part-time people. I don't know how we would ever live without them. Simon does all of our portraits and our photos, and Mackenzie handles collections stuff, but everybody else is a volunteer, and we never turn away
So
volunteers.
if you want to volunteer to help out?
Absolutely, yes, and Helen is the one that, she coordinates all the volunteers. You can pick your hours. We're very flexible. When people want to come in, we don't tell people you have to be here on a
Right.
Wednesday.
If you want to volunteer,
Yes.
you gotta do it when we tell you to,
We
right?
work with them, yes, absolutely, yeah. So we have a lot of opportunity for people who are looking to purchase photos,
Okay,
so.
all right, so how can they get in touch with you, Helen Nerska?
Well, you can call us at 518
Mm-hmm.
561-0340.
0340.
Yes. You can email director@clintoncountyhistorical.org. You can go on our Facebook page. It's the Clinton County Facebook page, and that, by the way, is fabulous. It tells all at least 2 times a week, we have a new history of something that happened in Clinton County on that Facebook page. I'm going to go down the Facebook rabbit hole just a minute. I'll go back to how to reach us. You can also go on our website, clintoncountyhistorical.org.
Now, there's other Clinton counties around the country. Does it say
Well,
New York
we've
at all?
better say New York, or you better say New York when you're looking for us, because we've had phone calls. A man asked me, he said, I just sent in my membership and you don't seem to have it. And he was calling Clinton County, Illinois or something like that, poor guy. So anyway, but that happens, yeah. So we're Clinton County, New York. And there's, back to the Facebook, because I don't know where else we'd mention it in this interview. We have the Clinton County Civil War record that, and we have documented about, I think she's working close to 3,000 of the 5,000 people who are vets. They're vets in one sense or another who registered in Plattsburgh for the Civil War.
Okay.
Yep, and she's done bios, and people can go on Facebook. The Clinton County has,
Who is she?
Julie Dowd, yep, she's done it, yep. And so they can go on and actually search on Facebook, and often they find their ancestor. So it's
you go
very
to that
cool.
Facebook page and spend a couple weeks.
No, just search
No,
the
but
name,
but you'll
Tremblay,
find-
and you'll see
Yeah, you'll find
every
something.
Tremblay she talked about, over, so it's very,
Okay.
very cool.
All right. So then we'll wrap up this segment.
We have, this
And
is
we're-
just the hall.
All right. So
There's
we're-
more to our hall, though.
Yeah, we're gonna move on to another segment here. So we're gonna wrap up this portion, and that other part of the hall will start a brand new portion, and there's a brand new video for this visit to the Clinton County Historical Association in Plattsburgh, New York.